Hello, everyone, and welcome to another thrilling episode of the Days Grimm. My name is Brian Michael Day.
My name is Thomas Grimm.
My name is Corey.
Who's joining us today in the studio? Bro?
Joining us in the studio today, guys, help me welcome Representative Ledbetter.
Morning, guys. How are you?
Madam, ma'am. I don't know the proper terminology.
Madame?
Yeah.
How about we just go with Cindy?
Cindy? Okay, perfect. So, Cindy, how are you today?
Doing very well.
Nice,
very well.
Nice. Welcome to the studio. We're very excited to have you. You are the first politician we've ever had on. So
thank you. Politician's okay, but I prefer public servant.
Public servant. Nice. Okay.
So if somebody were to meet you like outside, if you're in the parking lot, right, and they're like, "Oh, what do you do?" What would you basically be like your quick elevator pitch of what you would tell them?
Well, if I met somebody in the parking lot, my quick elevator pitch would be that I'm a nurse.
Nice.
Because you never know who you're running into. But
right.
So, yeah.
Practitioner as
nurse
well,
practitioner,
right?
yes.
My mother-in-law is a nurse practitioner, and she has two daughters that are nurses and a son that is a nurse. I have, like, all my in-laws are nurses. Yeah, it's wild.
I'm actually a psychiatric nurse practitioner, so I have a specialty that I work in.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mental health?
Yes,
Very
mental
nice.
health. Yes.
That's useful for me. I'm
already
a bit of a head case.
Firing with many questions.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Sorry. I'm very excited, slightly nervous. But yeah.
Well, I want to, on the intro point you mentioned, right, like basically you would say you were a nurse, right? But like from what I've saw, like you do a lot of bipartisan work, right? You more so care about like the actual like mental health and the psychiatric and things along those lines, right? Versus mainly like right or left, right?
I guess you could say that I could see how I would appear to be more moderate. Yes, I hold some very strong conservative views, but I do tend to be more moderate. So in my caucus of 70, Indiana is a primarily red state, right? So there's 100 representatives and 70 of us are Republican, 30 are Democrats. So in my caucus of that 70 of that group, I could see that would be perceived that I tend to lean a little more to.
Right. I just didn't know. I saw several of the bills that had been proposed, right? And they're co-written, right? And then you have you on the right, and then somebody else on the left.
Well, that can attribute to me. We typically always try to have a Democrat on our bill. Quite frankly, I'm not sure what the numbers are, but it runs about 90% of Indiana's legislation passes bipartisan.
That's wild.
Yeah.
That's pretty crazy. That's something I did not know.
I think
that's a beautiful thing, yes.
That is really nice.
We'll save that for like later on, right? Like towards the end here of like the inside the building, right?
Yeah,
like,
for
what
sure.
What does it look like?
I want to get down to brass tacks. By brass tacks, I mean I want to know who is Cindy Ledbetter. You know what I mean? Like first and foremost, like as a human before anything, I want to get to know you a little bit. So like, where are you from?
Originally from Pennsylvania, huge Steelers fan. Shout out to the Steelers, and I'm loving these new quarterbacks we got going on.
You guys got rid of the head coach.
Yeah, Tomlin. Yeah,
Tomlin, he's an announcer now.
Who everybody thought was a great coach, who in my opinion was riding off the back of Bill Cowher.
Kinda.
And so I'm excited about the new coach. Well, I wasn't really excited about the new coach, but now I've seen these quarterbacks. I'm a little stoked this year, so hopefully we can get it back.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah. So originally from Pennsylvania. Then when I was about 12 years old, I moved to Mississippi. That was different for me. And then from Mississippi, I moved to Tennessee, and then from Tennessee to Evansville. And then from Evansville, I moved to Warwick County. And I've been in Warwick County for about 30 years.
That is
I've been in this area about 30 years.
You're well traveled for sure. I mean, this side of the Mississippi anyways.
Yeah, east side of the United States.
Have you traveled much on the other side of the Mississippi?
No, I didn't really start traveling much until I was about 40. I've only been out of the United States a couple of times.
Really?
No, I don't. No, I've never had that opportunity.
Dang. Okay. I had the opportunity, but it was kind of against my will. So I went to a lot of not great countries. Okay. So like your childhood, you're growing up in Pennsylvania. Like, what do you do as a child? Like, I don't know. I mean, in your youthful years, like what was fun for you? What were you like, I guess?
I grew up very, poor. And so, in Pennsylvania, if we weren't living in the mountains where there was no running water, like when we lived in a cabin where it was all basically white people in the mountains we had to gather our water from a spring when we first moved in. We actually didn't have a toilet the whole time we were there, those types of things. Or I was living in the projects in the middle of the city where I was probably the only white child. So very contrast
So you've been
for
on
me.
both sides, but like as far as like I guess like what you would call the poor, but you've been on both sides really.
Correct. Yeah, both the rural and the
inner city.
In the inner city. Yeah,
That is one worse than the other. Just out of curiosity, because I've always kind of lived in a metro area. I'm from here, so I only really know this.
I mean, I preferred when you say fun, the fun was in the rural, because when I lived in the Allegheny Mountains of the foothills of the Allegheny Mountains in Pennsylvania, we would just go out in the woods as kids for days and just walk and do fantasy things in the woods. And,
Did you have any siblings?
Yes, I do. I have several half brothers and sisters. Yeah.
Yeah. When I moved down here, I was born here, moved to Indy, came back in high school, and my dad had a log cabin, and we had to like split wood all like basically right before winter and then all through winter just to like heat the house with a wood burning furnace. And it was cool, right? It's an experience, but like I can't imagine like no running water and having to like go and
fetch a pail, bub.
Yeah.
You got to fetch a pail.
Sidebar on that note though, like as a kid, you think that's so dumb. Like you hate splitting wood all year long, and you're like, oh, this is so dumb. This sucks. But now as an adult, I'm like, man, I wish I had a wood burning furnace right now. You know what I mean?
I did for a little while. Yes.
We're gonna get into that some more later.
Yeah, I actually did. I stacked a lot of wood, and then I remember having to do hay baling and things like that on the farm across from us when we lived in the mountains in Pennsylvania. And I actually have a little brother who he died by suicide, and he's buried up there. So I get the opportunity to go back up there and visit him sometimes.
Allegheny Mountains. Is that a part of like that Appalachian framework?
Yes, I'm pretty sure that it is. Yeah,
it is. Okay, I didn't know how far north they go. I'm not really sure.
They're long.
They get up there.
For real.
It's
Wild,
it's almost from top to bottom.
Oh yeah,
That's
there's some
insane.
really like boulders up there that are bigger than your home. Just beautiful. It's so pretty.
So
up there.
how long did you live in Pennsylvania? Like what age did you move?
I lived there till I was about 12, I think, maybe, and then my mother and her husband at the time moved us to Mississippi.
Culture shock?
Huge culture shock. This was a little bit earlier at the time because I actually moved back to Pennsylvania and then went back to Mississippi. But when I ended up in Mississippi, I ended up attending a school there called Motley Attendance Center. And I think at that school, there were 47 white students. And of those 47 white students, most of the boys there were from the boys' school, the local boys' school. Very different environment. And then later in my, I left Mississippi and went back home to live with my father for a little while. I was living with my mother. And when I came back to live with my mother again, my 7th grade history book in Pennsylvania was my junior year history book in Mississippi. I think the federal government just shipped them south. I was that far advanced in my education.
Wow. What does that say about the education system down in Mississippi? That's horrible.
Now, they have cleaned that up recently. They have really made leaps and bounds. So I'm really proud of them as a state. I looked up maybe about 6 months ago that they've won some awards lately. So they've really shifted that.
I feel like that's common, though, because like when I moved from Evansville to Greenwood, I was like a year or two behind, like based on like curriculum. And then when I moved,
you've always been a year or two behind.
Yeah, but
let's not lie to ourselves here.
When
doesn't read good. This one over here.
When I moved back halfway through high school, it seemed like they were almost on par, right? But I mean, class structure was a little different.
I was just teasing you.
It was weird to see that flip, right? I was like, oh, I'm gonna go from Indianapolis to Evansville, and I'm gonna be ahead, and it's gonna be a breeze, right? And then I got down here, and I was like, oh, it's basically the same.
Also, time frame reference. Things were a lot different back then too. Like I know, like growing up in the '90s, right? I'm a little younger than you, but like I know things are different educationally from like the '90s to now. So they had to be more different, like 10 years before that.
So if I would have graduated high school, I would have graduated in 1985.
Nice. So it was considerably different.
Yes.
You said would have?
Would have graduated high school. Yeah, I dropped out the end of my junior year. I was 4 months pregnant with my oldest daughter.
So what was that like? I mean, that's like we had Sorry, I'm
Tighten
getting
up.
distracted.
We
had Mary Allen on, right? And she talked about getting pregnant at a young age and having to like go through school, like college, I believe was for her. So I didn't know, right? Like that had to have been like was that like oh, I need to figure things out and like focus, or was it
What was it like? I think is what he's trying to get at.
Right. Well, I mean, it was definitely difficult, but I was young and in love, and I remember my junior year English teacher saying, "Cindy, why are you dropping out of school? You have such potential." And I said, "Well, Mrs. Such and Such, I'm pregnant." She just kind of looked at me, and I don't know if she knew what to do with that. So, yeah.
That's heavy, you know.
Yeah.
That's I mean, I feel like it's more common in this day and age. I feel like girls are getting pregnant more frequently. I feel like, I don't know, maybe it's more I don't know what the deal is, but I don't feel like it was as common back then. I don't feel like.
I don't know.
Maybe not.
But I
don't
was
know.
mainly going, right. So like then what happened, right? Like you leave school, and then what does the period look like? Because I mean, you get a nursing degree and stuff, so there's got to be like I'm basically trying to dive in deeper
Yeah,
in
he's
the
trying to
story.
tether it. How did you get from like dropping out of school and then getting to your profession?
Oh, that was a really long ride. Yeah.
Well, how
Very,
did it
very
start?
long
Let's
ride.
just start at the tip of the iceberg. So you dropped out, and then you have this beautiful child, and then how do we?
So, okay. So, well, let's just start back. Let's go back to, I guess I was about 15 years old.
Okay.
And my mother left. She left me in a very abusive situation in a home that one payment hadn't been made on our house. She left me with her abusive husband and a little brother and sister to care for. And she just took off on a motorcycle and left us in this bad situation. And there was never a payment made on the house. So the house was repossessed, and we ended up moving into this trailer park. And I was dating who turned out to be my first husband at the time. I remember specifically there was that Christmas. We had no food. We had no gifts. We had no tree. Christmas morning. And there's this knock at the door. And the people that he drank at the bar with had adopted our family. And they brought in a couple of turkeys, a couple of bags of potatoes, all these canned goods. I got a hairdryer. I had never had a hairdryer in my life. I cried and cooked all day long. It was just the most, and I like to pay that forward now. But anyway, when at the time, the guy that I was dating at the time, who later became my husband, he moved in with us. And I remember he wouldn't even eat off of our silverware because it was so not acceptable, I guess, for lack of a better word, and moved in and helped support myself and my brother and sister in this situation. And finally, my mother landed in Ohio and called and sent for my brother and sister, and they got shipped north, and I ended up getting pregnant. And as a result of that, dropping out of school, moving into my own trailer with him. And, I started watching children as a way, I guess, to earn some money while I was pregnant with my daughter.
That's wild, right? You see, I've heard so many stories of like my grandma's parents left, right? And she had to basically play mom for her 5 siblings, right? So like that's got to be a wild thing at like 15 to have to be that like maternal figure for like your siblings.
I'm so glad the DCS wasn't involved, because I would have ran away and probably ended up in YCC. I remember one day, the teacher was like, or the principal's office, my little sister had a doctor's appointment and I needed to take her. They said, well, you can't take her because we don't have any parental note that you need to take her. And I'm like, no control over my emotions back then. A young kid, like, my mother left. I have to take her. Well, you can't leave. And of course, I flipped her off. F you, lady. I'm taking her. What are you going to do about it? Well, in today's day and age,
right,
they would have hauled me off, put me in some facility somewhere, medicated me probably. And
your siblings would have been taken away.
Yes. And I'm kind of thankful, quite frankly, that DCS didn't get involved.
Right.
That is wild. Speaking of YCC, I'm actually missing a YCC trip right now for this interview, just so everyone knows how important this is to me. My church, St. Boniface, we do a visit to the YCC every second Saturday of each month. And Jason and Aaron Grease are the ones that kind of started that. I don't know if you know who they are. But yeah, so we go there and hang out with the boys, and then the girls that go with us hang out with the girls. It's really cool.
Very cool that
thing.
you do that.
Yeah, we like to play basketball in the yard, play cards with them, just cut up, just make them feel like humans. So, but yeah, that's a really like ugly system. I don't really love it. But yeah, that certainly would have landed you there for sure in that scenario in this day and age, which is wild.
One of my favorite organizations in this area is United Methodist Youth Home. As a psychiatric nurse practitioner, I've worked with them and helped those kids out. And, you know, those kids come into my office and they're like, with their head down, and they're all angry, and they don't, you know, they're like, who are you? You know, because people have preconceived notions when they look at you about who you are, right?
Absolutely. They've already drawn a conclusion.
Right. Yeah. And so then I share my story with them, and you can see them soften up, and then they open up to me, and then they start sharing with me. So I'm very supportive of the United Methodist Youth Home. They do great work there.
I do the same thing with the YCC kids, like, because I was a hoodlum when I was a kid. You know, I'm covered in tattoos. I've done horrible things in the military. Like, I'd share these stories that they're like, oh, this guy's like, he's human. You know, like, oh, he's flawed. Like, he's one of us. You know what I mean?
Right.
So... so that's pretty cool. It's a good way to reach out to troubled youth.
How many years would you say, like, I assume, right, like, would you have a daughter or a son first?
I had a daughter. I have two daughters. I have a daughter who's 42 and a daughter who's 32. Yeah.
So, like, you're watching other kids while raising your daughter, right? And then how many years do you do that before you go and get, I assume, your GED and...
Right. I did that for a long time. Yeah. And then I got my GED, and I did some factory jobs in Mississippi. I cut polyfoam. I made 100 Douglas blinds. Then I ended up getting a divorce, and I moved to Tennessee. So my aunt owns, at the time she owned several Sonic drive-ins. That's actually the reason why I ended up in Mississippi to begin with, and actually kind of why I'm here. So moved to Tennessee to run some Sonic drive-ins for my aunt. And
big competitor in Tennessee is Cane's.
Okay.
Yeah. Raising Cane.
Well, it's basically like a Sonic, but it's not.
Okay, interesting. So that's a new thing, huh? I don't know about that.
It's like around Martin, Tennessee, and like the smaller.
Okay, so I lived in Brownsville, Tennessee, and my daughter went to high school in Humboldt. So right all in that area.
Okay, nice.
So anyway, I moved to Tennessee, and I was running Sonic for quite a while. And that's where we ended up divorcing. And then from there, I worked for another factory. Then I actually worked for a beer bar for a little while. I was the first woman bartender at a little beer bar in a community. That was a small community, big fish in a small pond. I needed to get out of there. And my aunt showed up one day, and she had, she's telling me about her net worth and how much money she had. And she's like, I'm opening the Sonic up in Owensboro, Kentucky. Would you like to come to work for me? And I thought about it, and I thought, you know what? I need to get out of here. I need a change. So I moved to Owensboro to run that Sonic. And then that got to be a struggle. That's kind of when, that got to be a little bit of a struggle. And there was this big city named Evansville that had all these jobs. So I applied for the job for the Shell station across from U of E, which I think is now Marathon. And I moved over here, and I planted. And then I worked and managed the Shell station for a little while, and I got pregnant with my second daughter. And during that time, I was driving down the road one day on Highway 41. This sign said, Ivy Tech, where will you be in 2 years? And I thought, where will I be in 2 years? I don't know. You got to do something different here, right? And I thought, okay, I'm going to Ivy Tech College. Well, I pulled up outside of Ivy Tech College, and I'm scared to death. My knees are knocking, right? I'm like, this is too big for me. And I walk in the door, and I'm shaking, and there's this tall, elderly gentleman there, and I can't remember his name. Somebody sent me that information when I shared the story at Ivy Tech, but he said, young lady, how can I help you? And I said, sir, I want to go to college. I just don't know where to get started. And he took my hand, and he walked me through the front door of that admission office, and my whole life changed.
Wow. God bless that gentleman.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Yeah.
It is a terrifying moment to catch yourself in. You got a child and one on the way, or you just had the second one.
Right.
Everything's up in the air. Yeah. Golly. God bless that guy.
Did it did you already know that you wanted to go into psych or
no.
Were you like, I'm just going to go for the basics?
So
and
I started off in computer technology, I guess. And this was back before, with DOS, okay?
Like
back before
disk
Windows, right? And floppy disk, right?
Yeah.
And so I was in this class with all these dudes with these white button-down shirts and these pocket protectors and their glasses like Bill Gates bent over the back of the computer in the room.
Glasses with the tape.
I mean, this is not for me. I got to get out of here.
I'm sure they all offered to help you with your homework or something, though, right?
No, it just wasn't. It wasn't. No. So anyway, I thought, no, I gotta change. And so then I thought, okay, I'll do this medical transcription thing.
Okay.
So my joke is, I tell my patients today, I start going to medical transcription and I'm typing and I'm typing and typing, and I pick up that keyboard and I throw it at the computer. I'm like, I'm not typing for a living, right? Fast forward 25 years later, I do type my notes now. But but I love the medical terminology, and I thought I need to do nursing.
That's a rough class.
Yeah.
A lot of Greek.
Yeah, but I liked it. Yeah, a lot of Latin too.
It. Yeah, a lot of Latin, a lot of Greek.
Yeah.
I hated it.
So I flipped and I enrolled in nursing school, and I graduated with my associate's degree in 1999.
Did you do the nursing with? Yeah, congratulations first and foremost. But did you do nursing program at Ivy Tech? Is that where you
yeah, my
started?
associates at Ivy Tech. Yes,
They were doing that then. And then how did you progress forward? I guess because you were comfortable at Ivy Tech.
Right.
How does your education like evolve? I guess if you will.
Well, so that was 99, and then I went to work at St. Mary's at the time for the cardiac unit, and I did that for several years, and then I opened a business, an ornamental iron company in Evansville for a little while.
What is that?
Sorry to pause. I got two parts here. One, your work ethic has to be insane, right? Like my mom did the same thing, like 2 kids, had a job and went to night school, right? I assume it's similar for you, right?
Oh,
it was not an easy feat.
Not at all.
And you did it, right? Like I think I wanted to shine some light on like that.
I had to give up something every day. It was either give up I was always on the verge of being fired from Deaconess because I was working there as a tech. I either had to give up my job, something about my education, me, my children, my house. It was a scramble. I mean, I was living off of, my Pell Grant money, government loans, and I was making $12,000 a year, so
wow.
Food stamps and things like that, and I often, as to pull it back to the state representative thing, government programs lifted me up and lifted me out. So
that's like your slogan, right? It's a hand up, not a handout.
Correct. And now as a result of that, I'm able to give back because I had the food stamps, and then there was a program that I went through that they made me take these classes on self-esteem. And as a result of that, they paid for my books, and my clutch went out in my car one time. They paid for that. It was I think that might have been a state program. And then the federal government co-signed the note on the first home that I bought.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So all of those things helped me to move up and out.
And now back to your question of basically you graduate, right? You're going to Deaconess and you're in cardiology.
How does it evolve? Yeah. So.
Oh yeah. So anyway, there's personal things in the background we won't get into. So I did that for a while, and then I moved over to Select Specialty Hospital. I was doing that for a while, and I thought, well, I need a change here. And so we're talking, now we're into from 99, and I'm nursing until 2006 maybe, right? And I think I need a change. And I read this book because I'm listening to Dave Ramsey on talk radio. I love talk radio. And I'm listening to Dave Ramsey, and there's this book he mentions, 48 Days to the Work You Love. And so I read that book, and I put my background experience with my management in Sonic, running Sonic for my aunt, and healthcare, and I went into long-term care administration, so nursing home administration, and that was horrible. I did not fit into that scene, and I thought, okay, but I like the money. So I thought, what am I going to do different? I need to be back at the bedside with patients. So at the time, I loved cardiology and working with heart patients, so I thought I'm going to enroll at USI to become a nurse practitioner, right? And so right about that time, USI said, we've got this new program. We got this new program for psychiatric nurse practitioners. And I thought, oh. And so I thought about it. And with my background and everything that I've been through, my little brother, ending his life with suicide, all the books I read were these self-help books, psychology books. I changed. I flipped. And so I enrolled in the nurse practitioner program at USI, and I got my master's and with a specialty in psychiatry in 2013.
What was it like? So all your previous medical experience, right? More tangible, if you will. I don't know if that's an applicable term, but like hardware. You're working with bones and vessels and muscles and the heart, and that's what you've been doing. And then you get to this organ that nobody knows anything about.
Brain.
what was that like, shock and awe when you started these classes and they're like, hey, we don't really know much, but we got these medicines. It's kind of like witchcraft in the 90s. We're like still trying to figure stuff out. You know what I mean?
it is. Well, so it's great that
Yeah,
you bring
I don't
that
know.
up.
It's a
The
cute,
root
yeah.
the root word for pharmacy is pharmakia, which is witchcraft.
Wow.
I'm on to something, boys.
Yes. So
on to something.
So if you ever go to New Orleans, they have the first pharmacy of the United States is there, and that's where I learned that.
That's so awesome.
And that's a deeper story. We might need to go into some other time, but that gets wild.
Okay.
What's crazy is like you said though, it's not it evolves, right? Like we had my therapist on, right, and she was talking about when she was in school, right? That what's that EMDR therapy, right? It was not like they were like, no, that's not kosher. That's not what we're doing, right? And then now it's like everywhere, right? I hear so many veterans like Brian talk about, right? Like I did EMDR and those things. So it's interesting to see how it evolves.
I love you.
I don't know how the Jewish feel about it, but
That's what I'm saying. Like, we can't go one podcast without Tom bringing up. You know what I mean? Good God Almighty.
Honestly, though, probably your best.
I'm just loving these Bob Ross talks is all I got to say.
Thank you for bringing it up, Cindy. We're all thinking about it.
They
It's
help me feel the peace and the that I need for
Yeah.
today.
Oh, yeah.
Happy
Peaceful,
little trees.
Happy little trees over here.
Yes.
Always rocking the best socks.
Always.
Something.
Did you put those in frames so the world could see them?
Try to.
You're not very limber. Yeah, we get still trying to make an athlete out of Tom. Yeah, so what was that like? So back to my question though, like, so you go from like all this tangible, like A plus B equals C, like there's a rhyme and reason for everything you do, and it's tried and true.
Right.
And then now it's late 90s, early 2000s, and you're getting into this psychiatry, and you've decided, okay, this is the way I'm going, but like, it's a weird thing. So what was that like? Was it just shock and awe for you?
I don't know about shock and awe. I mean, I just have I guess that work ethic. I just dive in and learn. And, I get, in anything, like when you're learning about the muscle and the striation in the muscle, right? Mm-hmm. It's not any different than learning about the brain and the neuron in the brain and how those certain neurotransmitters. So I prescribe medicine for people who have mental health disorders. And the medicines that I work with work on neurotransmitters in your brain, like serotonin, dopamine, and norepinephrine. Mm-hmm. And so it just switches from, muscle striation and what's in, your bones make your blood to the your neurons in your brain and how they're affected if you add more dopamine and you add more serotonin and you add more norepinephrine. What does that do to the brain and how does that help the brain?
A lot of chemistry going on.
Yes.
So many words.
Well, and I know very little from my kinesiology degree from U of E. Shout out. But yeah, like in the brain, it's a lot of like chemical transmitters, right? This neuron, they have to talk somehow. And before they do that, there's a little chemical that goes between the two.
Yeah.
And that's like everything in the brain.
Yeah.
And different parts of the brain do different things. And it's still like, I don't know, what would you say? We know like 5% of how the brain functions, maybe.
Right. We're still learning, correct?
We learn something new, it seems like every year. Yeah. So it's just, I wanted to make sure I brought that up because it is certainly kind of strange to go from like renal oncology or whatever, something that how it works, to like, hey, we're working in the frontal lobe for this guy, but we're just gonna try some medicine. I don't, like it's,
everything's a hypothesis, right? In my Bible, in that setting is the DSM-5. So
what is that?
That is that is the book on how you make a psychiatric diagnosis. So to give you an example, somebody who's suffering from depression has had to, at least for 2 weeks, have I think it is 5 or 6 out of 9 symptoms of, are they not sleeping enough? Are they not eating enough? Are they feeling hopeless? Are they feeling helpless? Or, are they having guilt? Are they having regret? Those types of things.
How hard is it? Like, so like I have bipolar, right? And there's bipolar 1, there's bipolar 2, right? Like how hard is it to find like that line? You know what I mean?
Oh, that's a big question. So I struggle with the bipolar 2 diagnosis because there's a lot of people who are diagnosed with bipolar disorder that don't actually have bipolar disorder. They have what's called borderline personality disorder. And because somebody with borderline personality disorder cannot control their emotions, they get lumped into bipolar, because bipolar 1 is a condition that's not going to get better. Bipolar 1 is you have mania to to the point where you're up for 2 weeks, you don't sleep, you don't eat, you become psychotic to the point that you think that you're Jesus or the King of England or something like that, and you have to get, you give all your money away, you have sex with random strangers, things like that, and you have to get shots in your butt to bring you down, and then, or if you come down on your own, you just crash and you burn, right? I truly believe I may have seen maybe clinically 2 people that might possibly have bipolar 2, where you're more of a hypomanic state for 5 or so days and sleeping a little bit better and getting out of line. But a lot of the borderline tends to get put into the bipolar 2 category.
Yeah, it's wild, right? Like, because their diagnosis is like similar, but yet still has that like slight variant. It's just interesting.
Real wild card over here.
People
just
who
a
have
heads
personality
up.
disorders. Well, people who have personality disorders can get better. Right. And I would just openly admit that I recovered from BPD when I was about 40 years old. And I never showed in my professional life, but it really affected my personal life. And I truly believe it's a result of where I came from and how I lived my life.
Since we're airing out dirty laundry, I want to talk about post-traumatic stress disorder. What are your thoughts on that? How does that work? Like, have you worked with many PTSD folks, or?
I have. Well, I haven't for a while, but I do, but not the veterans. When I remember when I initially Deaconess got the contract with the veterans, every veteran that came into my office would get mad and stomp out and slam the door and leave, and they'd come back in a month and apologize, and we're able to get it together. But
that's my
life. That's
me.
It's a real thing, but you can get better from that. There is recovery in that. There's recovery in PTSD. There's even recovery with some major depression and anxiety, but bipolar 1 and schizophrenia, there's no recovery. There's just treating it to the best of your ability.
So you get out of college, you're still working at Deaconess. You stayed through Deaconess. You didn't go to like the state hospital or anything along those lines.
I worked at St. Mary's for a while at the time, and I went back to Deaconess when I went back to school, and then so let's see, I went to school, got my nurse practitioner, went to work for Deaconess. I did that for a while, and then I got into the long-term care administration. I'm got off board there, guys. We're gonna have to fix that.
Let's reel it in.
Yeah, reel it in.
You're
okay.
good. This is how our brains function.
Right.
So you're doing way better than we do normally.
Well, then I was working at Deaconess, and then that kind of moves me into where I'm in today, quite frankly. Yeah.
Very nice.
Oh, would you say mental health in like this region is maybe worse than some of the other regions? Or is it just mental health is mental health?
I think mental health is just mental health. I think so. I left Deaconess in 2019 because I decided to run for office, and I have a private practice now.
Very nice.
What led to that decision?
I didn't run for office out of political aspirations. I ran for office because I felt called to serve. My faith is not a campaign slogan. It is how I manage what I do. And I just felt that I was led that way. So after a season of prayer and reflection, I decided to run for office.
And I just want to point out the fact that how infrequent it is that that's why your story is so fascinating, right? Like, as a public servant, not a politician, but as a public servant, like, there are so many people that are like born and bred into politics, right? You've met hundreds of them, likely. Like, their dad was a politician, their mom was a politician, and then
you are correct.
And you know what I mean? It's just like this perpetual, like, you will be a senator one day, like, and do the right thing, go to the right school, don't get in trouble, and then that happens all the time. People like you, people like Mary Allen, like those, you gals are very far and few between. You're hard to find, and it's a blessing to have someone that like truly, genuinely felt called to this.
Well, and you got to experience, right? Like from the lowest of the lows and like having to fight your way up the ladder, right? And
and then to win, to get office and to be there to actually...
That wasn't done by my power by any means.
Right, but to get to that point to where like, okay, you were called to it, but now you're actually doing it. And it's just, it's a really, really cool story.
Why am I doing it?
Well, and we're going to get into some of the topics about that.
Running for office.
What was that like?
Yeah, that's got to be a lot of like project management, I assume, right?
So that was a little different. And so I decided 2017, I decided to run for Warwick County Council, and I took on a 24-year incumbent. Just so happens another man got into that race. So it was a 3-way race, and I was able to split that vote, I think is truly why I won that seat. And then my mind was, okay, now that I'm in the political thing, I'm going to maybe become commissioner one day and get appointed to be auditor or something. Who knows, right? That's where my head was. Well, then the guy that was in the state representative House District 75 seat retired. And I thought, do I want to do that? You have to run every 2 years, right? You got to, and I thought, do I really want to do that? So after much more prayer and thoughtfulness and talking to some of my mentors, I decided to run for the House District 75 seat.
How big are mentors to you?
They're really important to me. Very, very important to me. I am an introvert and a loner, and I guess I could be described as a popular loner. I tend not to reach out for help. I really need to do better about that. But yeah,
you have mentors for like different things. This is my like off ADHD taking over, right? Like I'm a big mentors person, but I find that like I got a mentor for business, right? I got a mentor for just like social life. I got another mentor that's like more financial based. I didn't know.
Currently, as sad it is to say, I've lost a couple mentors and best friends. And so it's limited me. I've had one of my best friends died about 2 or 3 months ago of a heart attack, and I miss him dearly. He was a dear mentor. But they're, for me in this area, they're the same people.
Gotcha.
They're the same people.
So what's it like when you get to the State House for the first time? Have you ever been there, Brian?
I've not been. Where is this State House?
Oh, it's in our capital, Indianapolis. Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
See, I know
beautiful building. You see, now you should. We go into session in January. You should reach out to me, and I can.
So another thing, I just want to put a dog ear on this page before we keep going in the story. I'm very not up to date with the news. It makes me very sad.
I don't watch.
So yeah, and I stay away from politics. I know what I believe in. So I don't know a lot of the terminology you're going to use, like cummerbund or whatever it was you said earlier. I don't know what that means. I don't know what a lot of this stuff means.
We took a field trip there in 5th grade.
Cummerbund. What's that?
Well, you said you took a cummerbund on the 3-man race, and I don't know what that means.
Oh, I took on an incumbent. Cummerbund, I think, is an actor or something.
Cummerbund?
I don't know.
Boys, have my back here. Somebody.
Incumbent, I got you.
But I don't know what a lot of these terms are. So.
I'm going to start using that moving forward if I have your permission. I'm running against a cummerbund, and I'm going to kick his butt. No.
You might look up the definition of a cummerbund. I don't know where I got that word from.
I thought is that the thing with your tuxedo?
Can you look it up, Corey?
I'm looking it up.
All right,
right now.
fine. I want to know what a cummerbund is, please. But while we're doing that, I may stop you and be like, "Hey, I don't know what a cummerbund is or whatever."
No
There's
problem.
multiple.
Yeah, it is for a tux.
It was for
Yeah.
tux or is it for a plate carrier?
Oh, I know what that is.
Yeah,
I've
that's
worn
a
one of those
cummerbund.
before.
Yeah, let's
Yeah.
see here.
Not
Tuxedos.
whatever you were describing earlier.
Well, they're pretty similar, probably about as dry.
So what's it like when you get into the State House? Like, do all 100 show up for every meeting, or what? Because you said there's 100 seats, right?
No. So for me, when I went in during COVID, so I wasn't even in the State House. We were in what they called the fake house, and
Nice.
they moved us into the government center, and they had us in these 6-foot desks, where we were doing our separation thing. This stupid plastic mask. It was so dumb because I couldn't wear the cloth over my face because I couldn't breathe, right? And it was miserable. So, and what's crazy about that is, so right about the time that I started running, I won that seat in 2020. And the reason that was like another thing that was just out of my hands. My opponent raised more money than I did, but I had signed this pledge for term limits, right? And this term limits group just started dropping all these flyers into people's mailboxes about me.
Wow.
I don't even know who that group was.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so that helped me win that race. So I kind of lost my train of thought there, but
Just like the awe of walking into the State House for the first time. It sucks though that it was
back
in
to Ivy
COVID,
Tech.
yeah.
It was back to Ivy Tech. So the day that I went up to register to run for office, I walked in and the building is so loud and there's these noise and people talking everywhere in these suits.
Was there another tall, elderly man to walk?
They
you
were
in?
everywhere. We had tall elderly white men everywhere.
Give me your hand.
I love this.
They weren't as kind.
I love this
Some
so
of them
much.
were, some
Yeah.
of them not so much.
Oh my gosh! So it's in Indianapolis, the real state house,
Yes.
right? And that's where you guys meet now.
Yes.
How often do you have to go there?
So we have a part-time legislature, and we meet in the winter. We meet in the even years we're there for 30 days. So, but that is like kind of like business days. So we usually come home mid-March. In the odd years, we have what's called a biennial budget. So that means we do our budget every 2 years for the state. So going into next year, 2027, we will be there 60 days, which takes me to the end of April. I literally drive up on Monday. I come home Thursday night. I work all day in my office, my psychiatric practice, seeing patients on Friday from 8 to 5, and then I go back up on Monday. It's exhausting.
How important is it, do you think, for like the average Brian Days out there, like Evansvillian, Newburghian, Boonevillian citizens to like know this information? Like what a representative does?
I think it's very important. And yes, I think that's one of my main goals is to educate.
Because a lot of us don't. If I just walk up to a stranger, I'm like, hey,
Yeah.
what do you think your state representative does?
Right.
They likely could not tell me.
Right. Well,
You know what I mean?
right. So what happens is like I'm allowed to file 5 bills to change the law. So to give you an example, every year I file this bill to end the collaborative practice agreement for nurse practitioners and physicians. A physician has to sign off on 5% of my work. He doesn't directly supervise me. He just signs the notes. And I've been trying to get rid of that for, several years. I file that bill every year. That bill has to go before a committee to be heard. Okay. So the initial step, you file the bill. So that means the language is alive. That language in that bill is alive.
Mm-hmm.
So that bill can go before a committee. Now, the chairs of that committee have all the power in the world of whether or not they're going to hear that bill.
How many chairs are there?
Well, there's several different committees. There's like a public health committee, the veterans committee, a legal committee, a DNR committee, natural resources committee. There's an insurance committee. So I sit on public health, family and children, and insurance.
Okay, nice.
And so, but the chair of the public health committee is a physician, and he's against nurse practitioners, so the bill never heard. But if the bill were to get heard, once it passes committee, then it goes to the House floor for a vote. If it passes the House floor, then it goes over to the Senate, and then it has to pass the Senate.
How big?
But
are
in
these
between all that,
bills?
there's all these things can be done. What's that?
How big are the bills? Aren't they like?
It's dependent on what you do. I've had a bill that's just a page, and then you've got bills like we passed a bill this year to get rid of all the rules in education. That was a thick bill,
Right.
to get rid of all these rules that were made.
How like you mentioned like bills that basically don't get heard, right? Like that's almost got to be like morale breaking, but like you said, you keep proposing the bill. It's something you believe in, right? Do you go and make micro tweaks to make it like maybe appeal, on paper,
change
right, to the guy
verbiage.
first? Or?
No. So the sad thing to say is the only way you're going to defeat that bill is to get a lobby behind it. But then not only that, you need power. And that's where the struggle comes in, and that is the most frustrating part of what I do.
I'm so glad this got brought up. I don't know, again, a lot about politics, but I know I don't like lobbyists. I know that I don't like business with government. And unfortunately, they seem to be married here. How do we get rid of that? Is that a thing that can go away eventually one day, you think? Or is this like our system just moving forward forever?
So I don't know that we're ever going to get rid of it, sadly. So the only way, in my opinion, is to fight it is through the power of the people. Because if you don't have money and you don't have the power and you don't have the lobby, then what you do is you have to have the ability to show up in numbers. That's the only way you defeat the power of the lobby industry is by organizing and showing up in numbers.
How much of, right, so that you mentioned like this guy that doesn't want to hear it, right?
Right.
How much of it can be like sit downs, right? Like, hey, can I take you to dinner and let's like go through this? Or
No, we went to dinner. No. And what is even worse about it is that now I'm not. He's a great guy. Don't get me wrong. It's just he does not believe in this, right? But he has the Indiana State Medical Association behind him, and they are a very powerful lobby. So much so, I sit on the Commission for Behavioral Health, and everybody in the room voted that we should end the collaborative for the nurse practitioners because it would improve mental health care. The one physician on there voted against it. It never came into fruition
Because it has to be
because the
unilateral.
Indiana State Medical Association and IU Health have all that money, and it's just blocking it from
That's
getting it
crazy.
done.
I have a good question about that. I know very little about psychiatry. I just recently met my psychiatrist for the first time, and he's really great. Nurse practitioner Jonathan Hill here with Deaconess in town. Great dude. Love him to death. We've met twice, and I'm like head over heels. That being said, so he as a nurse practitioner, you're saying 5% of his work has to be signed off by a
Physician.
PhD, by a physician, by a medical doctor, right? And your argument is that it would make I just want to understand. So it would make mental health more efficient, like the operation thereof, if he could just sign off like completely on all his work, right?
So it would make it more, it would make it, how can I say, more affordable. It would stop all the bureaucracy behind, because the people at the hospital that have to get all these contracts signed between the physicians and the nurse practitioners, it would do that. And it would also increase access to care, because there are nurse practitioners who have had to shut down their practice because they don't have a physician to sign off on their notes.
Okay.
Things like that, right?
If they're not tied to someone like
Right,
Deaconess,
yeah.
St. Mary's, whatever.
And quite frankly, and then the physician's argument is that the nurses don't have the education that they have, but doctors aren't trained in medicine from day one. Nurses are. Doctors are trained in science from day one. And what is our medical community? It's nothing but medication. Right?
Yeah, their first 4 years is like a chemistry, physics,
Right,
whatever.
right.
Like they're just
nurses'
doing.
first 4 years is about the medications and how they work and what they do. And then that's how that works. So
How often do medical laws change too? Like being, like a police officer that we've talked to several of them, right? Like laws change and they have to like get updated on the new laws of like, hey, this is out, this is in, right? How does that like factor into like the medical world?
well, it's not really. The laws are a little different because they usually are around insurance and things like that. Where things change in medicine is based on the science, and what the new guidelines are, and sadly that can be bought.
I heard that like the average American spends more on healthcare than what it would cost for like a universal basic healthcare for us.
Yeah,
Is that?
No, I don't believe that's true, because if you look at right now in America, universal basic health care would be the worst thing you could do. The reason why is because the baby boomers are aging out, and we need enough tax population to support that. So your tax dollars, your federal income tax dollars come out of your paycheck would be supporting that universal health care. And we're already trillions of dollars in debt. And if we did like Medicare for all, it would totally bankrupt our country.
I just didn't know, right? Like I pay my health insurance, right? But yet,
Right.
like I probably haven't been to the doctor to even pay a fraction of what that cost, right? So
Right.
I didn't know like if there was something along the lines of like everybody pays, an X amount or percent that goes and feeds into that.
And that's an interesting point to take, or that you said your insurance, right? So it just makes me think when they're doing those statistics, right? Like how much have Americans paid medically this year or this fiscal quarter or whatever? Are they taking the number that comes out of my pocket from my copay, or are they taking the number from the insurance company? Like
Yeah.
what the total bill?
I'm not sure where they take those numbers from.
Because that number would be inflated if.
Well, but part of the problem being is insurance was never meant to cover every little thing that there was. If you think about it, quite frankly, your health care is your responsibility.
Yeah.
and if there was like a universal basic, I'm sure a lot more people would go to
then you would
doctors,
be
right?
paying for everybody's health care.
Right.
Like you're saying, you think you're paying now, you're only paying for a certain pool now. Then you would darn sure be paying for everybody's health care.
It's definitely like a interesting,
We're an unhealthy country, no?
We are a very unhealthy country thanks to the lobbyists and our food.
Yeah, food. I mean, like I like Zen, tobacco usage. We're just like a really like not like mentally, physically, like not like a real healthy country.
Yeah.
We're just too, I think, spoiled here.
I
for lack
agree
of a
with
better
you.
word.
We are.
You know what I mean? So how do you fix something like that?
I think that's
One
that's a
conversation
culture.
at a time, kind of like what you guys are doing.
Yeah,
I think
It's-
I think it's a culture thing and stuff along those lines. So like talking back on like home turf, like here in the Evansville area, right? Like We've mentioned computers and several things along those lines,
don't
right?
get me
Like
started.
in Warwick County, I know they just did they just had a meeting the other day on data centers and stuff
Right.
like that. I know Posey County had one a while back. I think that one got rejected.
Right.
And now they're talking about one in Vandenberg. So how does that play into, like, are you on the board for that?
No, I don't have anything to do with data centers. I have spoken pretty openly about them. Most of my peers kind of just stay quiet and lay on the low. We were told to avoid social media because it is a difficult place to be. And, as a nurse, I advocate for my patients and I educate. That's what nurses do. And that has just shifted into my political role. And I'm trying to be different and I'm trying to educate. So when the data center thing came about, it came about because there was a House bill last year that a friend of mine, Kendall Culp, wanted to prevent them from putting data centers on prime farm ground because the agricultural business in Indiana is a big deal. So we want to keep the data centers off of prime farmland. And as a result of that, they made this bill that said that the data centers could come in and they could plant as long as they didn't on prime farmland. Well, because of politics got in the way and the media got out and said, oh, the Republicans are trying to force you to have data centers. So it started this whole big story of data centers and how they're coming to our community. And this anti-data center group was started in Warwick County on Facebook, and I was a member of that group. And so I was trying to talk to them, and they're like, well, Cindy, if a data center comes in here, we heard this story about you don't have water. Who's going to pay for the electric? And what about the end of life? We just don't want this big ugly building here, right? And what is the benefit of this? And I just saw all this, all these people having all these conversations and things, and some of it was kind of misleading and some of it wasn't correct. So I thought, you know what? I'm going to educate the public. So I went and researched all of those things. How do we fix the water? Well, they have closed loop systems now. And I think they're even beyond the closed loop systems now. They're getting to the point where they're using hardly any water.
Yeah, I'm both pro and anti.
Right.
I'm one of those guys, right, that like when I sit in a group, right, like I like to look at both sides of the argument. And I see like AI scares the crap out of me, but yet I use the crap out of AI, right? Like, and, flock cams, like I understand it from like a certain perspective, but at the same point in time, like I don't want to be watched everywhere I go. And I think, right, like the evolution of data centers, even though they're a fairly new thing, they have evolved, right? In the beginning, yeah, maybe, right? But now you look at the newest iPhone and it's vapor cooled, right? And that water recycles in there. I think they're down to like 95% of the water use is then recycled, and I don't even think they're using water anymore in these new ones. But on the power side of things, right, I saw that they're working on things to where like the data center has to supply their own power, which then would feed back into the grid, which then makes technically power cheaper, right?
Right. I mean, that's not written in stone. They signed a pledge with President Trump. So my goal was to educate the citizens once again, to get the public to give them the knowledge they needed to go fight for themselves, because I don't believe we can stop them from coming. Right. But if I'm going to have one come into my community, I don't want to have to pay for the power. I don't want to make sure that, the citizens there don't have water that runs correctly.
Well water
I don't want to look at an ugly building when you're done. So have something written into contract that there's we turn it into a community asset afterwards. And then the money that they bring in to the county is phenomenal. So how is that money going to be spent?
Have they released what like the data center technically like does, right? You hear data center, data is like the hot word right now, right? Like Facebook's got your data, Google's got your data, insurance has your data, right? And, like my mom works for a big medical company, and they were talking about how they're signing policies with these insurance companies where a client can basically sign something and then their data gets, used in clinical trials and all those things. And they're basically paid per token from their data. So like, I just didn't know if you like, what does a data center do? Like, what's its functionality?
So people think that the cloud, what do people perceive the cloud is, right? So everything's digital. I know that much. I'm not a technology geek, but I know that everything's digital, 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, 10. So you upload that into the cloud, and the cloud is basically sending it to a server. So they're nothing but a bunch of big computer servers in a metal building with some battery and generator backup, and that needs cooling. That's all they are, to manage all of your medical records, your insurance records, your banking records, your pictures, everything that we do on the internet has to be stored somewhere.
Right.
It's not stored in the air. That's what data centers do.
I'm glad you say that because I've always pictured the cloud as just like a cloud. I don't really understand.
Not yet. Maybe when Elon launched data centers and stuff.
But it's funny you mentioned the buildings. Have you seen the AT&T data center building in Manhattan? Have you seen it? Corey, will you look up AT&T windowless building in Manhattan? And don't ask me how to spell most of those words. There's this like they have like a similar kind of like data center thing. I think that AT&T has there. I think it's in New York. I know it's in New York. It may be in Manhattan. And it's a building that is as tall or taller than. Go to images. Yep, this is the one. It's as tall or taller than the Empire. No, it's pretty close to the Empire. It's tall. It's like a 70-story building. No windows from top to bottom.
Right.
Entirely just hardware all the way through.
It is hardware all the way through. And so we're turning out students right now to be work on that hardware. And, they talk about the building trades and the union guys being the next millionaires in America because they're the ones that have to keep those places running.
How ominous looking is that, though?
I know.
mean, that looks like a villain's lair. Yeah. Here, let's take a pee break.
All right, and we're back. Yeah. So I was gonna ask, basically, right, like from a historical standpoint, right, when electricity got discovered and built out, the government spent a good amount putting that in places, but they did do something similar to what you were talking about. Like my great grandfather was one of the people that brought electricity and like set electricity up and ran the lines to people's houses, right? He was like an electrical engineer of that community, and so he helped wire the town. You mentioned something similar with like these construction workers and the people that know how to do that, right? So there will be basically like a financial incentive, but then like the railroad, right? Like America basically went bankrupt building out the infrastructure for that. I mean, we're on the trajectory of like basically electricity's key, right? And these data centers will feed electricity and stuff back into the system, which our grid needs because our grid is a bit tapped, outdated. But I didn't know, like, do you think that like we'll basically be like kind of back to like basically one of those financial crises where like a bubble pops and everybody struggles for a few years, but then the data centers eventually pay off?
So as it relates to the data centers and financially breaking America, I'm more worried about the consumer. And I'm not so sure that it's about data centers and electricity. I don't know if you know, but actually Indiana's energy policy came from the governor at the time took the public railroad system and brought in energy into that for electricity. That's how that was founded. And the thing is we, the consumer, have to pay for all of that work that's done, right? And what is that going to look like? And what I perceive is happening, and which everybody's pushing to go nuclear because nuclear is clean energy, right? And I'm not a fan of coal. I've been sitting on, my district is on, I have 300 years of coal in my district. I'm all corn and coal, and I'm not a fan of coal, but I know coal that was cheap, coal was keeping the lights on. And then when all this green energy rules came along, which I believe was a system that was just propped up by some wealthy millionaires somewhere to take money off the backs of taxpayers, renewable energy, correct?
And they're not even that effective.
Correct. Thank you. They're not going to run everything that we need. Am I right? It's not going to happen. So then that leads us to what will do that. That's nuclear. But if we build nuclear, we, the customer, have to pay for that. And how do we balance that with utilities need to make a profit? We don't want them to not make a profit, but where they're not making a crazy amount of profit, but still meeting the needs where we, the consumer, can survive, especially the people that are retired on a limited income, those types of people that are suffering as a result of these crazy high utility bills. That's what I worry about.
And then CenterPoint, I guess, is a hot topic around here.
Let's talk about CenterPoint.
I mean, I'm sure you hear it nonstop.
Duke Energy is knocking on our door. I swear to God, they are knocking on our door. And they know that people are tired of it. I don't stand on political things very often, but I have several friends that are business owners here in this town. Jeremiah Gailey, the folks that run the Barcade, Clint, great guy, high score saloon guy. Clint's a really good guy. They're all saying the same thing. It's like we're refinancing to pay our daggone. You know what I mean? Like,
well, do you know why Duke Energy has lower rates than CenterPoint?
I don't. I know. I don't know.
Well,
actually.
the reason why is because Duke Energy has 800,000 customers. CenterPoint has 158,000 customers. So every time, like CenterPoint revamped AB Brown, and they turned it into a coal. Well, they turned coal into gas, right? They're burning gas now because gas was cheaper, and gas burns 35% cleaner than coal. So we wanted cleaner energy. Here we go with the cleaner energy again. So somebody has to pay for that. The consumer has to pay for that. So when you've got that much revamping and infrastructure build up, but you only spread it across 158,000 people, you're going to pay higher rates. Duke is doing the same thing, but they're spreading it across 800,000 people. So they don't have near the high rates that we have. That's why CenterPoint's such an issue.
So I'll follow up with this question. Are you insinuating that it will get better from CenterPoint?
Well, here's where it gets a little interesting, and not everybody would agree with me. If you add a big data center into a county, they pay for a portion of that electricity. They are one very large customer that pays for their portion of that electricity and that infrastructure and that upgrade. So the CenterPoint is saying that data centers would lower your electric rates. Okay, there's that side of the argument.
And that's not gospel. Like
that's not gospel. That's
sure.
not gospel, because the other side, they say, well, because if you're buying the energy off of the market, it gets more pricey, and then who pays for the infrastructure when the data center first comes? So, my goal has been to let the community know that they need to say, if we've got a data center coming, that they need to pay for the infrastructure.
Yeah, I mean the billionaire that I'm sure that's planting these data centers,
these are $1 trillion companies,
whatever trillionaire that's planting these data centers. I'm trying to be Christian about it, but piss on them. Like, you can pay the bill. I feel like if you're going to put this nuisance here, like, at least pay the bill.
Yeah,
it's how I feel about it. I would agree with you there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. It's just it's interesting that it hurts so bad. Like, the CenterPoints are like comically large, comically large.
They're comically large in their footprint, but they're not comically large in Indiana. They are they're not the smallest, but there's 5 investor-owned utilities in Indiana, and they are the second smallest. The other one is Indianapolis. And they're smaller in their geographical footprint, but not in their customer footprint, because there's more people condensed in that area.
What does it look like if Duke Energy were to come to this area? Is that even an option? Is that possible?
That would only be an option if CenterPoint wanted to sell to Duke.
So there cannot be 2 providers here, because that's kind of what I was getting at.
Not really. No. Now, I filed a bill last year. Well, actually early this year, House Bill 1276. And I knew it wouldn't get a hearing, but I filed it to get people talking about it. And that gives you choice of where you buy your electricity from. We would still have to pay CenterPoint for the lines, the wires, and what's called the delivery charge on our bill. But very much like your cell phone bill, they all share the same tower, but you pick where you get your service from.
Correct. Yeah.
And that bill didn't get a hearing, because then you have people saying that consumer choice actually raises your bill, and you have people saying, no, it doesn't. It actually lowers your bill. So I've researched what it's done in different states. And in that bill, I tried to come up with the best solution I could come up for. But I am pushing for consumer choice electricity, because then if you're into renewable energy, you can pick that you get your energy from solar.
Right.
If
just
you want.
like recycling, you can pick to recycle, you can pick just trash.
Correct. You have your choice, and I think anytime we have choice and you break up that monopoly, it lowers your rates.
So it's not impossible.
It's not impossible.
A lot of people have to agree before it can happen.
Well, that's when your lobbies and your leadership and all those people get in the way.
Kind of bullshit. Sorry, pardon my language.
That's where I wanted to ask was.
Yeah. That sucks.
So, like you said, it would be up to CenterPoint if they would allow another. Why is it up to them?
Well, because if the state tried to force Duke to buy CenterPoint, you're getting in the way of private business contracts.
But why would they have to buy CenterPoint in order to be here?
Well, CenterPoint has to choose to sell their business, right? So the business, as like Jeremiah Gailey buying Lamasco, right? Like Amy had to choose to sell in order for him to buy. It's the
for
same
him to
thing.
purchase that building, but could Duke not build their own facility here?
Yeah, but the
somewhere
infrastructure
else,
cost, like she was talking about, and the build out, that just gets dispersed again on all the new customers. You got to think CenterPoint has all the pipes, right? Same as like when Vectron sold to CenterPoint, they already had all the pipes and everything. So Duke would have to build out that infrastructure and run them.
But I mean, if so many people are wanting it, why is that a big deal?
Because they'd have to pay for it.
Because
Yeah,
people
but
don't
I
know
mean, what if they
want.
would be okay with paying for it? And I mean, in the grand scheme of things, like if they were like, yeah, I mean, your bills would be lower with us, but we're gonna have to somehow come up with the money to build this. Would you be okay with, helping footing the bill on this?
But your bills aren't going to be lower because you're going to have to pay that off over how many years of paying off whatever it is you built. You're talking billions of dollars to build out all this new infrastructure.
My 2 brain cells are just
Fighting.
Well, I got
firing on
I got
all.
a middle one to get us back similar. So, right, you
I
hear
just, that was my only question on that. I was curious because everybody says CenterPoint's a monopoly.
His dopamine's being triggered over
Oh,
here.
hard. Yeah. No, we have to reel him in hard.
I was gonna say like you've heard on like Rogan and other podcasts and everything like that, right? We're kind of like in like almost a forgotten triangle of policies, right? Like you have so much manufacturing around here: CenterPoint, Duke, Alcoa, Toyota, right? Like we have some of the worst like cancer rates and stuff just by being outside. Like, is there any policies on like cleaning up the air and making the area maybe more healthy or?
Well, actually, we did that with coal. We took so much of that dirty stuff out of the air with coal that the farmers had to start adding stuff back to their soil. We put scrubbers with the coal. And like, I'm a hippie at heart. I don't like coal, but coal keeps the lights on and we cleaned up coal. So why couldn't we just stick with coal? But we couldn't stick with coal because we had people in the federal government that said, oh, coal is not clean and we need renewable energy. And we got this carbon rule. I don't know what you were taught in grade school, but weren't you taught that carbon makes plants greener?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And we're taking it out of the air.
Kind of wild.
Yeah. Why would we be taking it out of the air if it makes plants greener? Are we making it worse because a bunch of lobbyists got together and want to make a bunch of money off this taxpayers over this thing called renewable energy? That's where my mind goes.
We're going back to the very beginning of this interview whenever I said I don't know anything about politics, but I know that I don't like lobbies. I don't like lobbyists. The fact that businesses and people with money have influence.
Yeah, but there's power.
It's
in numbers.
counterintuitive to the heart of our system. It is. If you go back to the founding fathers, like, it irritates me. I'm trying really hard not to swear. But yeah, like if you go back to the foundation of the Constitution, the gentleman that wrote that document, like it is for the people, by the people. Now it is for the people, by the lobby.
You're correct, but here's the part where I got to put it back on the
pisses me
people.
off.
Well, and when people like somebody like me, they're like, "Well, you have the power." No, I don't have the power.
No, and
the committee chair has the power, right? But where I could have the power is if the people would rally behind me and so, okay, we're going to do this. So, I've been making these social media videos and I'm getting ready to probably inflame some things a little bit more, but we have this direct action against CenterPoint Energy group on Facebook, Southern Indiana, right? 20,000 members. I am calling them out right now to get as organized as the data center people and get going on it. The difference is with the data center people is it's in your backyard. You go to the county courthouse to do it, right?
Yeah.
They're going to have to go to Indy to fight this. So how are you going to carpool? How are you going to get buses to go up there? Go up to Indy, protest, and let's get it done.
I'm getting chills just thinking about it. That's hell yeah, I'm on board with that. Like, and okay, so you talked about inflammation. I wanted to make a point there. The only way that things from medicine that heal, like the body inflames, right? So we got to inflame some stuff.
Right.
I think that's pertinent.
Right.
So kudos to you for that. You mentioned I need some folks to follow me. What does that look like to you? How do you have like an idea of what that looks like even, or like, I don't know.
My goal has just been to educate and advocate. And then I can't force people to change. Some of the people that are running that direct action group, they just want to argue with me about it. They want to argue. They want to belittle. They want to put you down. They want to say bad things instead of going, okay, wait a minute. We need to get organized. So that's my call to action is going to be, I've got a couple more videos planned to close out an electric series that I have. It's like, okay, now it's up to you. They just want to blame the politician, the public servant. They just want to say, no, we elected you, you fix it. It's clear that you can vote me out of office and it's not going to change anything until you, the people, stand up. The second thing you need to do is vote. There's so many people out there to say, what does it matter if I vote? Well, in Indiana, when you're primarily all red, nobody votes in the primary. As a result of that, you typically have only two types of people running for office. The people who want power or the people who don't want in there. They're just off their rocker, right? So it's hard to find good, solid people, but nobody votes in the primary because they think, well, they're all Republican anyway, so why vote? Or they're all Democrat anyway, so why vote? So only 14% of the people turn out in the primary.
Years,
I mean, what is the percentage of turnout for Indiana when it comes to voting?
In the primaries, it was 14% off election year. For the general, I think it may run about 30% if I'm correct.
Pitiful.
It is pitiful.
14% is roughly 500,000 people.
Yeah.
In the entire state. That's insane to me.
I'm one of those people that if you didn't vote, shut up. You didn't try.
Oh.
You have to try. I mean, that's the problem. People, it's like you just said, people just want to point, complain, and hopefully, oh, well, that'll take care of it. That's not going to do anything.
No.
Yeah.
So what's your message to like the average Joes out there, right? The local community, right? Like, what is that what you recommend, right? Get out and vote, get involved in your politics locally.
If you want
and
things
state.
to change, get involved. Get involved in how can you help? What can you do to make a change? It's the people's responsibility just as much as it is mine, and I will hold them to that all day long.
Yeah,
if you want the power of the people, then you need to step up and be the power.
Well, especially you don't know the direction, right? Of you're representing a group of people, but like if those people don't tell you what they want you to represent or stand for, right? You kind of have to figure it out yourself.
Well, that's where it becomes a little bit difficult for me because I want to represent and stand for the knowledge. You know, not everything's black and white, right? So, and the problem with this is like on social media, there's a lot of quiet support. The noisiest people, the loudest people makes it appear like they're the most, but that is not always the case. There's people that don't want to get involved that are quiet in the background, the silent majority. You know, those people need to probably get involved too.
Because the squeaky wheel gets the oil.
You're right, and that's what's happening in the primary elections is the squeaky people are the ones that are running the show, and that's not always the best outcome.
Right.
No.
Yeah. God, I'm sorry. I got a little fired up earlier on the lobby thing. That really,
I understand.
it really irritates me, man. And you always see like politicians that are running, like you see the commercials on TV, we're against lobbyists, and you know that they're not. It's just like, it's hard to like, I don't know. It's just a tough gig. And I salute you for like stepping up to the plate as a genuine person who cares. You know what I mean?
So I took that hit because, you know, I took last year, I think I got a $500 check from CenterPoint, and somebody's like, well, you need to give that back. And I'm like, I'm not giving it back. Well, you need to give it back. Well, so my political campaign account, I give the money to the veterans. I'm a member of the American Legion in in Newburgh. I give it to the Boonville Legion, the Newburgh Legion. I give it to the VFW. I give it to the orphans. I give it to the widows. And then I give it back to the Republican Party. That's what I do with my money. So that $500 that CenterPoint gave me went to the veterans. It went to the orphans, and maybe it went to the party.
Not to mention it's a drop in the bucket. Like,
oh my gosh, I know. They act like $500
not
is
even
going
a
to
drop. Like,
I know.
come on, dude.
I know.
What do you think the average person should know about like your job, right? Like you hear, you're on the state house. You're like, what do you think the common like misconception is that like we think that you do, right? That like, or like, what do you think the average person doesn't realize like your job actually entails? I picture like you're.
I don't want to say what's on my mind, guys.
I just picture you're at
putting
a desk,
up with
you're
the
reading
bull.
notes.
No. I think the misconceptions are, I had a guy yell at me one time. He said, because I have a tag on my car that's it says it's got a number on it. It's actually my parking spot at the State House. And they're like, well, they pay for your car. No, they don't. I mean, my state rep salary is, I think, about $76,000 a year. And I have to spend about $10,000 of that to live in Indy when I'm up there. So I took a cut in pay. I would make much more money if I did my full-time psychiatric practice. And I think people need to realize this. I'm not doing this for the cash.
Right.
Yeah.
I think some of the best, like some of my favorite politicians in history are always someone that, very intelligent, much like yourself, like the Roosevelt, Theodore Roosevelt. You know what I mean? Successful, smart dude. I don't know, like the lawyers and the doctors and like those people, like those are always like my favorite politicians for whatever reason.
Well, and that's my favorite part of being a public servant is in my caucus, there's 70 of us, okay? And you have teachers, you have entrepreneurs, you have doctors, you have lawyers, you have dog groomers, you have people that own wineries, you've got nurse practitioners. And when we talk in that room, it's private in that room, and we bounce ideas off of one another. I learn everything. And just yesterday, I was up in a strip mine in the middle of a bunch of black coal, learning about this process and how to clean this coal. And I've, toured all these different facilities. I love the learning. That's what I love. I get to learn about so many different awesome things. That's my favorite part of what I do.
To go into that. I have so much knowledge about so many off the wall random
It's kind of like working on Wall Street. You got to know a lot. You got to know a little bit about a lot.
A little bit about a lot, yeah.
Yeah, like being a politician, I would assume like being in Wall Street kind of synonymous.
And you're relatable, right? Like you can probably talk to anybody and find a common thread, right? And pull on that conversation. Very easy to converse with.
Yeah.
Hell yeah, man. What is so you've been doing this roughly 6 years now. What is your favorite thing that you've enjoyed the most about being a representative?
The learning.
The learning. That's your favorite thing?
Yeah, the learning about all the different things, seeing all the different things, the learning. And I enjoy, for the most part, the people. When, the people that truly know me, they are so supportive of me, because it's really easy when you're out there getting beat up on the internet. You have to have really broad shoulders for that. And to be outspoken about things like data centers. And when I go out into my community and the people that actually know me, they're like, Cindy, I'm so proud of you. You're doing such a great job. And that touches my heart, because I tend to isolate a little bit and lock down, because it's like, whoa, but I make myself get back out there, and that's as a result of my faith.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. And then I guess we should touch on that. Like, how important is your faith in this? Like, I know you've mentioned it several times. We never really touched on it.
Well, it's not my campaign slogan, but it guides everything that I do. And
that's important.
Yeah.
And I'm just learning that, like, getting into prayer all the time on certain things I'm unsure about. And like, so yeah, I think that's really neat. I don't have another one.
I think it instills good values and grounding, right? It's a core to then spread out from.
Well, and yes, and I explained to all of my patients, you have a body, you have a mind, and you have a spirit, right? And so I say, like, my body, I explain my hormones and how hormones as a woman can affect my mood, right? And how I need to manage that. And then I talk about my mind and how people can get depressed or get PTSD, or, you have issues with your mind that you got to function, right? And how your chemical structure can get off, and medication could maybe help with that. Where with the hormone stuff, I might need to take a hormone replacement supplement to help with that. And when it's your spirit, and it gets heavy for me. I know it's good energy versus bad energy. What do you want to call that? Do you want to call that negative, positive energy? You want to call that angels, demons? What do you want to call that? Right.
Right. It exists, though. I agree.
Exists. Yes, it does exist, and I can feel it. And it's a weight when it's heavy. It's not a good thing, and you have to work on your spirit just as well.
What are some big things coming up as you're wanting to get past, or you want people to know or maybe rally behind as we get close to the end of this episode?
I want people to realize that they have just as much of a responsibility for change, to make things change, as I do. I want to put the onus back on the people. You need to, if you want your CenterPoint bill to change, you need to carpool and get your butts up to Indianapolis.
Awesome. As we gear up to end the show, we always ask people, along this journey, was there ever a moment where you wanted to throw in the towel? And you don't have to go into depth on that situation, right? But like, what kept you going? What keeps you going?
What's your motivation?
Yeah, Monday night, I could have probably thrown in the towel, because I had some dude on Facebook saying the data centers are in your back pocket. You're getting paid. I'm like, dude, if I was getting paid and doing something illegal, would I be this vocal about it? Come on, use your common sense. My mental health took a little bit of toll Monday, but after a snack and some sleep, I don't know if you're familiar with the story of Elijah in the Bible, but he was running from Jezebel, and he went laid down by a stream. Was like, Lord, pretty much. Even Moses said, if I got to deal with these people anymore, kill me, Lord. Just kill me. I'm done. Right? Moses said that in the Bible.
Right,
yeah.
Elijah lays down like, I'm out, man. And God said, have a snack and take a nap. And
take a breather.
Take a breather. And
Yeah.
I did. Tuesday morning, I felt better. And it's my faith.
Dude, a snack and a nap.
Eat a snack.
That's what keeps me going. A
Folks
snack
at
and a nap.
home. Seriously, folks at home, a snack and a nap.
Little
Yeah.
TLC.
Because
Dude.
if I got to deal with this anymore, I'm out.
Right.
Yeah, dude.
Right.
Self-care, it's
Count to
important,
10.
man.
Yeah.
It's important.
Well, I learned a lot.
Yes.
And it's very cool that, like, you know, as a representative, you're willing to sit down and talk to two goofballs that have ADHD, right, and can't
Yeah.
stay on topic. It's
Yeah, no, God bless you for dealing with us. God bless you for what you do. Seriously, keep your nose at the grindstone. For the folks that are seeing this, seriously, if you support this, like, get behind it, get out there and be
And
about it.
when's the next voting cycle? Where can people get in touch with you if they need information or?
Well, they
anything
need to, if they want information as it relates to, I don't know, certain issues to the State House, or they need help with anything, they probably need to email my campaign account, which is h75@iniga.gov. If they just want to talk about my campaign and the politics, they just need to reach out to me on social media.
Awesome.
Okay, awesome, man.
Awesome.
Well, seriously, thank you so much for taking a couple hours out of your Saturday. I think, yeah, it's Saturday, and coming and sitting down with us. Seriously, thank you so much. It's been nothing short of a pleasure. I have no other questions, gentlemen. Are you guys all good? Are we all buttoned up?
Solid, dude.
Okay. But yeah, thank you so much. And this has been another thrilling episode of the Days Grimm. My name is Brian Michael Day.
My name is Thomas Grimm.
And I'm Corey.
This has been Representative Cindy Ledbetter. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you, guys.